Welcome to the UX Teacher Prep Podcast, the ultimate destination for educators who aspire to break into the field of user experience and product design. Your host, Z Arnold, a 15-year teacher turned UX researcher, is here to guide, coach, and mentor you through every twist and turn as you make your career transition into tech. If you're ready for a more satisfying career and lifestyle, and you want the balance to unleash your creativity, this podcast is for you. Now for the show.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today, I'm bringing you a special interview with Shaine Frazier. He's a former New York City special education teacher with a unique journey from education to web design to user experience design, culminating in his current role as a digital customer experience manager. In today's episode, he talks about his transition from the classroom to corporate and the skills he leveraged from both his teaching career and his side hustles to land a manager position in the user experience and customer experience space. You can read his full bio in the show notes, but let's get into this conversation. Okay, Shaine, it's so great to have you on the show today. I'm excited to talk to you because you are a former New York City teacher like myself, and I just feel seen and heard having this conversation with you today. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's actually pretty awesome to find someone who actually transitioned from the DOE successfully that's in the same field as me as well. So this is great.
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to ask, how did you learn about UX Teacher Prep and the podcast?
So a couple of years ago, I want to say about 21, 22 school year, me and my wife were at least trying to start a family. And during that time frame, I didn't enjoy the work I was doing within my school. I won't say they were like degrading or anything like that, but there was definitely, since I was a special education teacher, there was definitely that kind of, secondhand, you're not the primary person in the classroom feeling, as some of the teachers or sped teachers may tell you about. And I noticed my stature within the classroom kind of diminish. One thing that kind of kept me going was I had a self-contained class, which was great. Mm-hmm. But during that year, I noticed that my love for teaching started to wane, and I started looking for other opportunities. I already had some sort of a side business as well. And I decided like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can pivot into something that I've already been doing. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I went on LinkedIn, gathered as much information as possible about UX, and I added everybody. I added everybody that was in the field. Mm-hmm. And I saw you were in the field. I definitely added you. I just wanted to know the field and know what it was, the terminology and the methods used within it. I kind of dove into Coursera and, doing a Google professional certification in UX. So I took that year as a sign that I want to pivot. Let me go through LinkedIn and see what I can find there.
Okay, interesting. That's good. So a year of like teaching yourself and just immersing yourself in the field and learning from others that were in UX?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sounds good. So you were a high school special ed teacher. And so how long were you in that teacher role?
5 years.
Okay. And so you just started is there anything about UX that kind of like sparked your attention that made you say, okay, this is something that I want to do?
So at first, I won't lie, I wanted to, continue my path with psychology. Mm-hmm. And as I did more research within the field, I found out, so my side job at the time was I had a short-term rental company, or I had a short-term rental, and I just made it into a company to where instead of just renting out the space for guests, what we did was we rented out the space for people to do different types of events there as well. We had a professional chef do, dinner parties there, and we had a film crew come and do the short film there. So what I did was I created a website for myself, and I utilized my platform to kind of do some of that other work within that. So I had web design skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did that research to find out, hey, I looked at myself and said, hey, I come from psychology, have web design. Where is the middle ground here if I were to pivot?
Mm.
And that's where I found UX and found out about, hey, you're really taking advantage of tailoring experiences for your user or your end user. And a light bulb went off. And that's how I kind of found out like, oh, this is something that is definitely attainable at least within me. And I found that I was doing a lot of UX research work,
Mm-hmm.
just being a special education teacher, because you have to take all that information and all the curriculums that you do
Mm-hmm.
there and translate it for neurodivergent students.
Mm-hmm.
That's your end user.
Right.
And so like from there, you have to utilize with whatever method you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of, do your research on the back end. And that's how I really found out about UX research. And I found out that I was actually doing that work already.
Right. And yeah, I speak to a lot of people that realize over time as they get into the whole UX and learning it, they realize that, hey, I'm doing some of this work already in my teaching role. Like I'm doing a lot of this work, especially special ed teachers. They tend to really be just doing that work of trying to cater to the user, figure out what the user needs.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. And then I love how you talked about your leveraging your entrepreneurship skills, your psychology background, your web design skills, because we do have, outside of teaching, there's other things that we love to do and we do in our spare time, and we have those skills. And certainly we can bring them into our next role as we decide to pivot. So that's really important. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. It's something that I think at this point, unfortunately, having, obviously you keep your 9 to 5, but having a side hustle is paramount to in society at this point.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, if you can leverage that and pivot,
Mm-hmm.
utilizing some of those skills, that's awesome.
Yeah. And before we get into talking about all the things you've done in the UX space, how long did it take you to transition out of teaching into UX once you decided that you wanted to make that change?
It took a while. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
It took probably a year and 9 months.
Okay.
And I'll preface that by saying at the end of the 22 school year, we took a long vacation. We went to Costa Rica,
Mm-hmm.
and we cleared our mind because my wife was pregnant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When we got back, I said, I can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go back to that environment. And we were already going to go and leave. So we were just going to leverage this next year in 23 to kind of do a hard reset, especially for me, because I was saying, no, I wasn't going to go back at all to that school. I did apply to other schools within the district, but it just wasn't, the love wasn't there anymore. And during leave, my wife actually ended up finding a job before I did.
Okay.
in operations.
Mm-hmm.
So she's an operations manager, and she pivoted, and that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to, her being successful was able to kind of alleviate any of the fears
Mm-hmm.
of both of us not going back, because she came from, her school was a mess as well. And so I utilized that year to bond with my son. And
Awesome.
it was like fantastic, but also to kind of own my skills in UX. I ended up doing a couple of projects.
Mm-hmm.
I collaborated with someone from LinkedIn, and we did a side project,
Mm-hmm.
which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilized some of those things and plug them in my resume.
Right.
Now, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that 2023 year was just a mess in the tech industry, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Massive layoffs, people who are well qualified. So I'm entering a field that's already crowded.
Right.
I would say that probably didn't help, people from Google applying to the same jobs that I'm applying to. So, but all in all, the things started to turn up towards the end of the year, and I started getting a lot more bites, and I was able to parlay a lot of the skills that I had, my just entrepreneurial background, into the space where I am now.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that imposter syndrome and people from Google and other, FAANG companies, big companies are also applying. So it's kind of intimidating,
Yeah.
But I always tell people to just focus on yourself and what you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And that's super helpful. And one thing that I notice as a trend with people that I talk to on these interviews, teachers, is they have this moment of reflection, whether it was during the pandemic or just a time when they had time, because teachers, that's what teachers don't have, right? They don't have time. But when it comes to like a summer break or the pandemic or just, like you said, going on vacation, you have that time to reflect and clear your head, and you start to realize, there's more that I want to do. There's a bigger impact that I want to have, and I want to make some changes. And that's really where, things just start to take a turn. And I think it usually takes a turn for the better. So yeah, something that I noticed.
Yeah. I enjoy the fact that we get summers.
Yeah.
But also the amount of work that you do, we do well over 40 hours, well over 50 hours, so there's a give and take there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was doing at least 80 hours a week when I was teaching.
Oh my God.
Yeah, at least, because, I don't have to tell you, right?
Absolutely. No, I get it. I get it.
You're always working. You're always thinking about the next lesson plan. You're grading. You're doing all those things. So yeah. So let's pivot and talk about your current role. So right now, talk about what your role is in the UX space and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So I'm at Digital Customer Experience Manager for an insurance company. And in this role that I'm at now, I actually leverage a lot of what I did previously. So coming from web design, coming from UX design, coming from UX research, all of that is packaged within the role that I am in now. I do a lot more analytics, use that to kind of speak to some of the KPIs that we focus on. And this is globally now, since it's an insurance company, it's a large insurance company, and you're talking about North America, Europe, APAC. So what I did to actually get in this space was really own my UX design skills and be able to speak to it in a way that all teachers have, storytelling. So that's the most important thing that if anybody were to take away from this is your ability to storytell and connect the dots to your students. It's incredible when it comes to getting into like a business. And that allows me to speak to a lot of the key stakeholders. So your vice presidents, your EVPs, your digital leads. And also if you're able to do it, you can also speak to the development teams as well. So that's like really, really important because in my role, I speak for the business. So I speak to the developers, the people who design the entire, the sites on the back end. I am the one that tells them which analytics or which metrics we're looking to leverage here and why we're looking to leverage it. And then take that information during those sprints and then speak to my direct and say, hey, this is what's going on here. This is why we're analyzing key parts within the website. This is what we need to do to leverage these insights. I think that that's something that's great because of my storytelling abilities from teaching.
Okay, got it. So let's take one step back here because a lot of my listeners are not familiar with a lot of the acronyms and some of the things you were mentioning. So you mentioned you mentioned the KPIs, which are the key performance indicators.
Yes.
Okay. And then going back to your role as a digital customer experience manager, right? So customer experience, we say CX.
Yep.
User experience, we say UX. So what would be the difference between UX and CX?
The major difference here is that I am not building the platforms. UX designers are really, building your prototypes, your wireframes, your storyboards and all that. So I forego that now and people do the demos on the prototype that they've built for me. And I kind of pick at it to speak again from the business standpoint of, there may be a pain point here in terms of, I'll utilize one of the examples. So what are the sites that is under my portfolio now? There's a drafts thing where you can just save your progress and you can come back to it. Now, the drafts thing, you can see clear as day. It's one of those call to action buttons that's on the bottom there. That's great. But getting back to that draft, if you were to log out and log back in, where do you see it? Now, again, from the UX standpoint, you are thinking about that, but you're thinking about that in a micro way of like, let me just throw in a hamburger menu here and you'll be able to see it.
Right.
A hamburger menu is, just the 3 lines you see on your screen. that has a drop-down menu.
Mm-hmm.
But as a user or a customer, someone who may be older, is not looking for a hamburger menu. They need something a little bit more in their face to see it, right? So I just speak for them to the UX designers.
Got it. That makes sense. So you're you're advocating for the users and also advocating for the business at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So in your work, and I really appreciate you giving that example because I know examples make things a lot more clear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you work with UX designers, you work with probably engineers, you also work with UX researchers, correct?
I double as a UX researcher for my company. So our team is small, 3 in total, but that's the CX team. The UX team is small as well, but they are doing a lot of the designs. They have a huge load of work on their side. So when it comes to getting these insights, customers, internal, external, we're the ones that are really spearheading that and doing the interviews, the surveys, leveraging Medallia and taking that information and just trying to speak to the business side. So our UX team doesn't necessarily focus on the research from the business standpoint.
Got it. So just for the listeners, Medallia is basically a place where you can get feedback from your users, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page here. So let's talk about you being a digital customer experience manager. So is that something where you think teachers would be able to transition into that manager type of position? Or do you think they would need to have like another position and then work their way up to that manager role in that space?
I think I shot for the moon. In this case, I'm not going to lie. One thing I've always did, like I said, I always had some sort of a side hustle going on.
Yep.
And for the lion's share of my teaching career, I was also moonlighting as a sales and service representative for Nordstrom.
Wow. Okay.
Right. This is on top of going to school for, so this is, I am a go getter, right?
Yep.
So, and I took that and all the skills I learned from there, I packaged it as well. So I had 3 buckets of skills that I had. And this is why, and for your listeners, I'm so serious. Whatever it is that you're doing, take inventory of it.
Right.
And then strip it down to find out what skill or what niche you're actually good at. I was good at Nordstrom. I was good at, I was only doing it on the weekend, but I was good at taking time to communicate with people and finding out, the whys and the hows for getting whatever they're getting. Right. So I think teachers absolutely can go for the manager role. However, they must be able to speak the language and the terminologies that's being used within the field that wherever field they're applying to. That's the most important thing. You have to be able to have some of those things down pat before applying to those positions. Because again, you're entering a market where there were a ton of layoffs again this year. And some of those companies are kind of opening the well again and letting people apply to some of their positions again. But they're out there. And if you don't feel confident when it comes to like the language that you use, the language that's happening within the industry, you're going to have to take a crash course in that ASAP.
You talked about taking an inventory of your skills, what you can do, whether it's from teaching, whether it's from a side hustle that you have going on, a second job, all of your skills, like doing an inventory and seeing what you can do and packaging your experience. So I want to talk about that piece, packaging your experience. How did you learn how to sort of like build your resume, package your experience, put everything together to present yourself as this person that can take on a CX, UX manager position?
I leaned a lot on LinkedIn. I'm not going to lie. During 23, I added you. I added everybody from the industry and I just soaked it up. And not only there, I also looked at the resumes that they were doing. I won't lie. I definitely purchased a resume builder. The company, they, do careers and everything like that. But someone kind of discussed with me, what is it that you do and how long did you do it for? And they helped me kind of connect some of the dots. But before I did that, I always have like a running list of resumes that I have that I enjoy. And one of the major things when it comes to resumes now is what is it? How did you leverage it? Are there any numbers to speak on to what you actually did? What are like whatever the action was?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the major things that kind of I found eye-opening when I did my LinkedIn deep dive, because I found out like I really have to, for anybody to get into this industry, you have to have some sort of, KPI or key performance indicator that's showing that you are moving the needle. And teachers absolutely have that. Matter of fact, the metrics that we get from standardized tests and also special education teachers, we have to do it on a weekly to monthly basis where we have to track some of these metrics. So you have a track record of everything that you're doing. Hey, listen, just figure out where you started at, where you ended at, and find the percentage in the middle there. And then you can add that to your resume. That was something that I did to help me with all of my different jobs there. Where did I start? Where did I end? What is the percent difference in the middle? And like plug it in my resume.
Got it. So I'm hearing about the different, I guess, connections between teaching and your role in user experience. And it's really about advocating for the students, advocating for the users, understanding them well, also tracking the metrics and being able to show that you can move the needle, which you did in the education space. I'm sure you did in your business for your entrepreneurship role. There's a lot of connections then. You're showing that there's a lot of connections between teaching and or your entrepreneurship experience and going into that UX position.
Yes, absolutely. And also doing projects helped me because there weren't metrics there, but end to end, seeing it, you see how long a process can take, how short a process can take, how long research is. Oh my God. And just going back and iterating over and over and over again, like just doing some of those projects on the side just to kind of immerse yourself in that, it helped me a lot, especially during like that downtime of me applying to jobs. And, you get your rejection letters and you have your existential crisis of like, oh my God, am I ever going to get something or let something hit? And as you're doing that, you also have to kind of continue to push along.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned being able to spend some time with your family, spend some time with your wife, your son. And I wanted to talk about the work-life balance. So do you feel a sense of work-life balance as you're in your new role? How do you feel in terms of balancing your personal life and your work right now?
It's never been better for me. I do have a hybrid schedule right now.
Okay.
My team is separated. So my direct is in Connecticut. I have a teammate that is in UK.
Okay.
So we're all separate. So we're never really like together. So our syncs occur like maybe like once a week. But within the position that I'm in now, I have responsibilities that I'm not going to lie. My manager definitely threw me to the fire. They're like, okay, you say you can do this. Okay, let's see it. Here you go. We're going to get started. So I love that. I have the autonomy. Like that's like something, oh my God, it's amazing. Especially again, like, so I was a special education teacher. So I had co-teachers, and in that space, which it can be difficult.
Yeah.
But also it can be amazing at the same time. But it really is how you run your classroom.
Right.
And I was a part of classrooms that were very well run. I was also part of classrooms where it was a challenge. So having the autonomy now to where I kind of own some of these processes is amazing. I can get into the office whatever day of the week I choose, but also there are other satellite locations aside from that. I can get like a New Jersey office. I can go to the Midtown office, or if maybe one of my coworkers, he took vacation in like California and he's from California and he got to do some more remote work out there, which was like it's unheard of. You can't do that as a teacher.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm home for lunch and I'm able to pick my son up and I'm still going to get these things done, but they don't necessarily, there's no micromanaging of time. And
Right.
some, as you know, like there can be definitely some offices where it's like, yeah, they're definitely clocking you when it comes to how you're coming in and out of the main office within your school. So there's none of that
Right.
at all. And I can be thankful enough for it, honestly.
Yeah, you brought up some memories about about the main office. And it's interesting because, my work is remote. Some people who have transitioned out of teaching, they have hybrid roles, some are in person. And, every company is different. And so even as a remote worker, you might have actually more micromanagement. And lucky for us, it sounds like we don't have that type of micromanagement. We have deadlines we have to meet. And, we can step out to do something for one of our kids, pick our kids up and still come back and get our work done, which is amazing because our bosses trust us to do our work, and that's really important. That's really important.
One of the things that I just want to add on that is because I work for a global company, there are times, and I think I heard a couple of your shows previously, whereas you have like different teammates in other countries. There definitely are times where I am on a call at like 9 p.m. and I say that to people and they look like mouths dropped. What do you mean you're signing on at 9 or early morning or whatever the case may be? And yes, I get that. And it is a bit of a shock at first.
Yeah.
However, being able to block your time during the day is like, it's fine.
Right.
Because others know that there's reasoning why, hey, I'm just not going to be available from X to X and I'll sign on for this later meeting, or I'll get some work done at 7 p.m. versus, having to be in a central location to get to do the work. Just want to put that out there as something that's a possibility, especially if you are working within UX.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because that is a reality, and something that some people are okay with it. Some people are not okay with it. I am very much okay with it because I do have several children and things happen during the day and I know that I can put my youngest down to sleep at night. And then if I have to jump on for 30 minutes to take care of something or an hour, I can do that. But I have flexibility. Whereas when I was teaching, I didn't have any type of flexibility in that, if my child was having an event at school, obviously I couldn't be there, first day of school, all these things.
Oh man. Yeah.
You can't make it,
you miss out on some of those things.
Yeah. I love to talk about that flexibility piece because it was like, when you're, I don't know if you did this, but when you're transitioning out of teaching, you kind of make your list of like your non-negotiables. And one of my non-negotiables,
absolutely,
one of mine was like, I need to have a balance to spend time with my family, for my mental health and all of that. I just cannot be in a place where I'm stifled and I don't have the balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to come to the end of this conversation by asking you if you could send a message to educators or people who are transitioning into UX, what would that message be?
Take inventory of what it is that you're doing. I can't emphasize that enough. As a matter of fact, start now, start like yesterday, because if you can, and this goes to the role that I'm at now, like if you can start documenting some of the things that you've done, like you've done amazing things. Absolutely. You're a teacher. Come on. Especially if you've done them over a period of time. Like I've only taught for 5 years. If you could just get one or two of those things to identify, and obviously, there's always some initiative that we're rolling out and, whether it's increasing student rigor or whatever they can, document those things, store them for yourself, put that on your personal thing. And I mean, obviously you can block out whatever names or whatever, but having those metrics, game changer. And again, going back to if you were doing anything outside of that, whether it's social media, if you're excellent at social media, that's marketing.
Right.
And marketing is definitely a thing that you can utilize within the UX sphere, or not just UX, within the customer experience sphere as well, because that's what we do. We market to other clients. We market to people who are actually utilizing the sites that we have. Take inventory of it and document it. And try, and I mean, we have so many different AI platforms now you can utilize. Plug it in there and try to make some sort of a story where you can kind of connect the dots yourself and then package that when you are, or utilize that when you are interviewing, because it will make a huge change and your confidence will shoot, especially if you have like some sort of imposter syndrome. I saw during your show, you did one of those if you have something and you can speak to it and you're confident about it, oh man.
Yeah.
Others see it. Others definitely see it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I really appreciate you being on the show today. I learned so much from you. I'm sure my audience will as well. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, I have one of the people that helped me interview,
Mm.
or at least build my confidence when coming to some of those things. Because you want to get all this information out all at once, especially when you're interviewing and you only have about 20 minutes or so with this person. You're trying to make an impression. One of the people I worked with, her name is Malika Catlin. She definitely helped me and has a lengthy positive track record of getting people jobs to where they're really game changers for them, life changing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's happened with me. It's happened with, I know, at least 5 others. So I'd like to get her out there. She's just on the onset and maybe thinking about taking this as a career, but I mean, she's good at it. So I want to make sure that I can kind of give her a plug there as well.
Awesome. Thank you for giving her her flowers. If you give me her information, I can definitely drop it in the show notes so folks can reach out to her as well.
Yeah,
oh, that's
most
great.
definitely.
That's great. So how can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I just started a new Instagram. It's s.d.frazier.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also contact me via LinkedIn. One of the things, again, that kind of helped me during my journey was collaborating with some people from LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
and utilizing that project to kind of gain insights, just being able to work on a platform and, whiteboard some ideas is excellent. And I'd love to open myself up to those possibilities as well.
Okay. I'm going to drop those links in the show notes and in the description so folks can reach out to you if they want to have some conversation. So again, thank you for being on the show today. It was so great to talk to you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you like this podcast, hit follow and scroll down to leave a 5-star rating, then share it with a friend. If you're looking for resources to help you on your tech transition journey, head over to UXTeacher.Prep.com. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram at UXTeacher.Prep for daily tips and motivation. Have a topic you'd like to hear addressed on the show? Send us a DM on Instagram. If you're listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be well.